everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Tuesday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. I've been talking a lot of wrestling this week because this is a huge weekend in the wrestling world. And I've still got some more wrestling to talk coming up later on in the week sometime. But I wanted to take a break tonight. Good evening, Keveron. Thanks for checking in. I can just about count on you to leave at least one comment every night, Keveron, and I greatly appreciate it. I wanted to take a break tonight from the wrestling world and talk some college football and do another early season preview. And I thought about this team earlier today because they've got a head coach that most people think got the raw end of the deal the first time he was a head coach. Then he went back to being a defensive coordinator, did a fantastic job, and now he's back in year number 2 at this school. They were really good last year, probably went way over most folks' expectations. They lost their quarterback. Now they bringing in a quarterback. Hey there, Austin. Glad to have you here. Who was successful at his last stop, but it was a group of 5 school, not a Power 4 school, and they jumped in with both feet to give him, I think, upwards of $1 million, so he better have a really good season. I'm doing fantastic. Austin, thank you for asking. What team am I talking about? Duke. Now, it's hard to believe that we're talking about Duke football, but since North Carolina looks like they're, going to be average at best, and Wake Forest used to be really good, but these last 3-4 years, they've gone backwards, and they're not going to be any good again this year. And NC State, I think, is in for a long season. Duke's probably going to be, for the second straight year, the best team in what they call the Triangle of North Carolina. Tobacco Road is what they call it in the world of college basketball, and that's Duke, North Carolina, NC State, and Wake Forest. No, Austin, I have not watched it yet, but, Duke had a couple of good years under David Cutcliffe, and then that was it. But I really think Manny Diaz is the right guy for the job, and I think if he would have coached anywhere besides Miami, he'd probably still be there. I think the guy's a good coach, but Miami still living in the 80s and 90s back when they were the U, and, they think they're a double-digit win team every year, and they're just not. So, they ran off Diaz because he wasn't winning 10-plus games every year. But I think he's a good coach. This will be his second year there. And, of course, the quarterback I was talking about was Darian Mensah, who transferred in from Tulane. And there was actually a rumor that started last year with probably about a week to go in the regular season, if I recall correctly, that Mensah was going to transfer to Duke because they were going to offer him bukus of money. And I want to say it was over $1 million, maybe 2, and I was like, why? Because, Darian Mensah was good, but he wasn't exceptional. And Tulane, was a good team, but they were a good team before he got there. And he didn't make them good. They were already good. So I just didn't see what he was doing that they thought was worthy of that money. Now, this was before Malik Murphy, who was Duke's quarterback last year, announced he was transferring, and I thought, why are they offering Mensah all this money when Murphy's their quarterback? Because Murphy, in my opinion, had done nothing bad enough to lose the job, and then, of course, after the season concludes, we find out that Murphy's transferring now. We'll never know. Did Murphy transfer because Darian Mensah came and he knew Darian was going to be the starter? Or did Duke get word that Malik was going to transfer, so they went after Mensah and offered that big pile of cash to make sure he came because they were losing Malik and they wanted to make sure they had a good backup plan, which was Darian Mensah. We'll never know. Did Malik transfer because he got word Darian was coming, or did Darian come because Duke got word Murphy was leaving? Nobody knows. Yes, I'm going to talk about that later on in the week. Austin, I've already talked about main event, and I've already talked about Great American Bash, and I'm going to talk about AEW later on this week sometime, and I'm going to talk about Evolution coming up later on this week. Sometime there's a lot of wrestling to cover this week. This is a big week. If you're a wrestling fan, there's wrestling on all 7 days this week, including 3 pay-per-views / premium live events on Saturday. And I've got 2 wrestling shows on Saturday. But let's go ahead and talk about Duke. Now, not only is Darian Mensah their quarterback, but Jonathan Brewer is the offensive coordinator, and another Jonathan Patke, is the defensive coordinator. Duke will open up on August 28th against Elon, and then they'll play Illinois on September the 6th, and then they'll play Tulane on September 13th. So they don't play all 4 of their non-conference games to open the season. They'll play 3, and then they'll step into conference play for a while, and then their last non-conference game won't be until November. I'm not sure what day it's going to be, Austin, since I'll be gone all day on Saturday, and then hopefully I'll spend Sunday catching up on what I missed Saturday, but I will cover it sometime. That's why you should always just watch the channel to make sure you don't miss anything. Then they'll open up the season on September 20th against NC State. And then they'll play Syracuse on September 27th. Hey there, Clip It. Glad to have you here on this Tuesday night. Thanks for stopping by. Then they'll open up the month of October on the 4th against California. And then they'll have their first bye week. Then they'll come back on October 18th and play Georgia Tech. And then they'll have their second bye week. So they play 6 games, bye week, 1 game, bye week. Then they come back on the 1st of November and they play Clemson. So the way Duke's schedule is with 2 bye weeks in 3 weeks, they only play 2 games in the month of October because they're off the 2nd week of October and they're off the 4th week of October. Yes, Austin, I try to watch NASCAR as much as I possibly can. Hey there, Eddie. Glad to have you here. And then after Clemson on the 1st of November, they'll come back with UConn on the 8th of November. And my guess would be that's their homecoming game. I saw the schedule, but it didn't say homecoming out beside it. But I'm sure if I investigated, I could find out. But it's really not that big of a deal. But my guess is you're playing UConn in November. That's probably their homecoming game. And thank you for the kind words. Clip It. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you love the content. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Hey there, Incognito. Glad to have you here. And Eddie, tonight we are talking Duke football. I try to do at least one early season preview per week up until the season starts. And tonight's Duke, and this is probably, I guess, the 10th or 11th one I've done so far. I've written a few of them down. I know I did Tennessee, LSU, Clemson, West Virginia, Florida State. This is Duke. And there's somebody else that I know that I've done that I'm not thinking about right now. Did I say West Virginia? I did them. I know I did quite a few already. And hey there, Hashim. Glad to have you here. And Incognito, I'm glad you're a Duke basketball fan, but I never understand how people can do that. And maybe it's because I just believe in pulling for one team and one team only. But I know people that like Georgia in football and Duke in basketball and somebody else in college baseball. I can't do that. To me, when you do that, it just comes across as being a fake fan because it just so happens that, you pull for Georgia in the one sport they're good in. You pull for Duke in the one sport they're good in. It'd be like pulling for the Yankees in Major League Baseball and pulling for Hendrick in NASCAR and pulling for the Lakers or Celtics in basketball. And Hasheen, I had no problem with Oklahoma City winning the whole thing because my NBA team is the Pelicans, and they're absolutely abysmal. They've been abysmal for a long time. They're going to keep being abysmal for a long time. So, since my team has no chance of winning a championship anytime soon, I'd rather see the Thunder win it than I would the Celtics or the Lakers. The teams that seem like they win it every year, even though they don't. But it just seems that way, just like the Yankees have not won a World Series in 16 years. But if you're a baseball fan, it seems like they win it all the time because back in the day they won it all the time. Now I know the Celtics and Lakers don't win it every year, but it seems like they do. So seeing a team win their first World Championship, I was fine with that. But no danger in my team winning one, so I'd rather see a new team win one than see the same old win it again. But after UConn, Duke wraps up the season with Virginia on the 15th of November, North Carolina on the 22nd of November, and Wake Forest on the 29th of November, which is, of course, is Thanksgiving weekend. And people like change Hashim unless it's their team. If it's your team, of course, you never want to see your team get beat. But if it's not your team, you get tired of seeing the same teams win, all the time. And that's the way it's always been in sports and the way it always will be in sports. Just like when a team is losing, a team is no good, their fan, like say it's college football, their fans will say, man, I just want to win a game. And after you win that one game, they're not satisfied. It's, man, I want to win 2 games. Well, you win 2 games and they're not satisfied. It's, man, I want to win 4 or 5 games and be average. Well, you get to 4 or 5 wins and it's, I want to get to 6 wins and go to a bowl game. Well, after you win 6 games, it's, man, it sure would be nice to get a double-digit win season. Well, you finally get to 10 wins and it's, I want to go to the playoffs. As fans, we're never happy. And also as fans, we get tired of seeing the same people if it's a, personal sport, or the same teams if it's a team sport, win it all the time. And Austin, I'm not a Tennessee fan because I'm a Clemson fan. But if I wasn't a Clemson fan, I have no problem with Tennessee. When they play Georgia, I definitely pull for them. And I think the harder one to win, Hashim, me personally, of course, I've never played either one, so I don't know. But my guess would be it's probably the Super Bowl, only because in NBA playoffs, each round is a best of 7 or best of 5. So if you have a bad night, no big deal. You got a couple days off, you can come back and win the next game. In football, if it's playoffs and you have a bad night, oh well, sucks to be you. There's no way, no chance, no how you can make up for it because that's the end of your season. So I would guess it's probably the Super Bowl. But I think in all of sports, counting college and the NFL and the NBA, all sports across college and professional, I think the hardest championship to win is college baseball. That's my personal opinion. Of course, some agree, some don't, but I think with the way they do the brackets, I think it's the hardest one to win. So anytime a team wins a College World Series, I think you have to give them credit. So, Duke, I believe last year won 9 games. Now looking over the schedule this year, I think they go 3-1 out of conference. They'll beat Elon, they'll beat Tulane, and they'll beat UConn. But Illinois is going to be a top 15 team. I don't think they beat Illinois, but it's not like Illinois is going to finish 5-7. You're going to look back and say, "Well, that was a bad loss." I think Illinois is going to win 9 or 10 games, so losing to them is not like an embarrassment. Austin, I used to like UFC. The one thing that kind of changed my mind on them was when the NFL was getting sued back in the day for all the supposed concussions. UFC thought, "Oh no, we got to change our rules too, so we don't get sued." Then all of a sudden they outlawed pretty much anything you can do on the ground because they was afraid they'd get sued for concussions because the NFL did. So now it's to the point to where if both the guys or both the girls are on the mat, they just roll around and hug each other because everything's illegal. You can't knee, you can't elbows. They just roll around and on the ground and hold each other. And I don't like that. But before that happened, I was a big UFC fan. Not now. It's always harder to follow than wrestling because a UFC fighter might fight in January and then he won't fight again until August. So you've got 6 months to either not watch it all or try to find somebody else to pull for because they don't fight but 2 or 3 times a year. But when they started banning pretty much everything on the ground, I was like, I'm done with this. Hey there, Ray. I'm glad to have you here. In conference, I think Duke. I think NC State's going to be pretty bad this year, so I'll give them that win. I think they beat Syracuse. I think they beat California. I think they beat Virginia, and I think they beat Wake Forest, who's also going to be pretty bad. But I think in conference they'll lose to Georgia Tech, who's going to be really, really good this year. And they'll lose to Clemson, who's going to be really, really good this year. The only loss I gave them that I'm not sure this team is better than they're going to be is North Carolina, only because that's your arch rival. Now, it used to be the last game of the season. It's not now. This year it's the next to last game. But it still is your arch rival. I expect North Carolina to have made some progress by late November. Now, if this game was in September, I'd pick Duke. But by late November, I expect North Carolina to have made some progress. And I just don't think Duke wins every one of these games they're supposed to win. I'll give them a loss somewhere. So I'll say North Carolina beats them. So I've got them 5-3 in the ACC, 8-4 overall, which if that's correct, that'll be a pretty good season for Manny Diaz at Duke. And my favorite song, Ray, I guess you're talking about in the secular world, so I'll go with probably Walking on Sunshine, only because it's a happy, uplifting, positive song, and that's the kind of music I like. I don't like all the depressed music, so I'll go with Walking on Sunshine. And my favorite football team is the team you see in the background behind me and the team you see on my head, the team you used to see when I had an intro video, which is Clemson, the only team that matters. There's one rule in the sports world: either you're a Clemson fan or you're wrong. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Fruit of the Loom took Haynes to court. It was a brief case. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.